Dah. Masukkan dalam tu. Masukkan dalam bit. Share. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat kembali untuk berbicara tentang buku-buku yang kita kemukakan untuk perbincangan. Ini adalah perbincangan kedua. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Buku yang berjudul The Origin of Malay Sha'ir oleh Profesor Syed Muhammad Naquib al-Attas. Ya. Jadi dalam perbicaraan kita 3 minggu yang lalu kita telah memulakan pengenalan kepada Malay Syair ni, yang bukan saja kepada Malay Syair tetapi juga kepada bahasa Melayu, pertumbuhan bahasa Melayu itu sendiri. Ya, dan ini satu perkara yang menarik sebab pengaruh bahasa Melayu itu bukan hanya kepada bidang persuratan dan kesusastraan saja, tetapi juga kepada pemikiran dan pengajian Islam. Sebab tu saya fikir buku ni sangat menarik. Saya pernah baca buku ni beberapa kali lah, tapi tak dapat menghayati buku ni sebab saya kata buku ni perlu ada orang yang bimbing kita baca lah. Sebab ada beberapa perkara berkaitan dengan ilmu-ilmu latar yang ataupun ilmu asas yang diperlukan untuk memahami buku ni. Jadi saya tak membuang masa panjang. Terima kasih untuk kesekian kalinya Profesor Muhammad Zaini Uthman bersama kita untuk menguruskan majlis kita. Dan insya-Allah kepada mereka yang berada di dalam talian, jangan lupa share posting yang kita adakan ni oleh Akademi Jawi Malaysia dan juga Facebook saya, dan untuk diwar-warkan. Dan setiap bulan kita dapat lebih kurang 3-4 ribu orang yang mengikuti kita secara online. Terima kasih kepada mereka yang bersama.
Terima kasih Dato Zaini. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya salin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. We'll continue again this week. Dato Zaini begin in Malay. I'll speak in English. But we'll mix because in certain parts of our episode this week we'll be reading some lines from the poetry of Hamzah Fansuri. But to recap, and this is something very important. Today is October 25th, right, Dato' Z?
Ya.
October 24th, 2024, Professor al-Attas was inaugurated as the Nobel Royal Laureate, Royal Professor Laureate of Malaysia. And it is a timely celebration, although it's a bit delayed, I think. But it's timely in the sense that we finally recognize him. The reason why I want to recall this particular event, it is because of the contribution that he has done. And one part we missed in acknowledging his contribution is it's almost the resuscitation of Jawi and its wonderful literary tradition, and that is in the Malay Sha'ir. We don't celebrate so much of what he has said in this book, which is he has identified the author of the Sha'ir, and that is Hamzah Fansuri. And this has come about because of his graduate work, which is the Mysticism Hamzah Fansuri, and that was published in 1965 or thereabout. And it proves a point that I was mentioning to the committee that was set up by Mosti many years ago in our aspiration, Dato' Seri, to have to have an aspiration to somehow in the future, if we can get a Nobel Prize winner among the midst of our academic, which the point I said was that most works by Nobel Laureate, they are not done in 1 or 2 years before the award was given. Most of them were done during their younger graduate days. And I think this is what we have seen today, or now that we're realizing the work of Professor al-Attas. His identification of the authorship of sha'ir is very important. And this is why he said it is a discovery, because previous scholars, the Dutch scholars, have never wanted to say for certain the identity. They say it's probable, but probable is not the exact by naming it. And this has been the persistent, or the leitmotif, or basically many works that is done in our history and culture by others. And this is what Prof. al-Attas mentioned in this book, the concluding postscript of the Malay Sha. The case being of the Terengganu inscription, when he wrote that the date is this. The earlier work by Blagden, Matheson, Drewers, they say no, there are 29 possible dates, because it is not clear what is written in the inscription. Although it's very clear for someone who comes from the tradition, which is Adi pertama ada Jumaat di bulan Rajab, di sasana kala baginda telah lalu 702. That is a date. It's not a probable dates, but a particular date. And that is the genius of Professor al-Attas, to discover that date. And this is also another accomplishment of his, Dato Sri, which I think the celebration ataupun the inauguration of him as the Royal Professor Laureate is really a wonderful thing. Because, and as I said, when I was very young, younger I should say, when I first read this book, it gives me the vibes that this is a man who's trying to recapture the authority of writing our own literary history. But it's unfortunate that many don't really understand, partly because of the material. And the material is, of course, written in Jawi. And that poses a series of challenges and problems in itself. And this is what Dato Sri was asking last time. Why is it that there is a need to correct the work of the Dutch scholars? And Professor al-Attas mentioned in this work. We shall see. I shall try to read it later on. But this is where we must realize sometimes literary works like this, Dato Sri, may not be immediately appealing, right? But when we actually read them, and with a full, as they say, literary and scholarly tool, we can really appreciate the immense work that has gone through it. Because in order to understand the sha'ir of Hamzah Fansuri and its later implication, it takes a lot. For example, I think in here he says, one of the challenges is the works of Hamzah Fansuri and many of our Jawi scholars, let's put it that way, because now Malay seems to be separated from non-Jawi and Jawi, heavily laden with Arabic terms. It makes it very difficult. But to me, it is not a shortcoming, but it's a challenge for us scholars, because Dato Sri studies science, chemistry, whatever. You know Latin terms, you know Greek terms of scientific in nature. When we study physics, we were unfortunately being hammered down with the Greek letters, you know. All the formulas are written in Greek letters. We took it as is normal.
Sigma,
Alpha, you know, pi r square, you know. So the Arabic is partly the infusion of technical scientific terms. But now, if we speak in that manner, somebody would say, oh, this is Arabization. And Arabization is almost like, you are bringing us to backwards. You know, but what is Greek and Latin is it's not Roman times. Isn't it backwards too? So this is the kind of impression that we are getting nowadays at the Sri. So Arabic terms are laden in the works of, and which makes it very difficult for contemporary ustaz or alim when they want to speak. They have to speak laden with Arabic terms. So it's a challenge for us now to really revisit the introduction of some of maybe rudimentary, elementary Arabic, so that we can learn at certain stages as we go along through the process of learning. We must introduce technical terms so that they are no longer alien. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And it also shows that there has been a separation of this particular level of discourse, as you see. It is separated from literature, metaphysics and literature, right? Metaphysics, unfortunately, because it is, well, they say it's the claim of philosophy. And that's another thing. Professor al-Attas has been saying, tasawwuf or mysticism or Sufism is actually metaphysics in Islam. But because the sounding of it, the reverberations of the terms that is almost philosophical, then people say, oh, tasawwuf is Greek influence. And that is why they are, this is misguided. This can lead you into error. No, the point is because metaphysics is at the highest level of thinking about something, Islam must come with an answer too. Otherwise, we will be completely, we'll be off guard. But we have it. We have it. And this is why I said in the works of, in my work, al-Attas of psychology, I said Professor al-Attas triangulate the ideas germinated in the discussion of philosophy, of kalam theology, and tasawwuf. Now, for those who study signal, they understand triangulation means from 3 points, you get the middle, soft, sweet point of the signal. And that's the accomplished that is done. You cannot say, well, this is not acceptable. You need higher level of interpretation of some things. For example, in physics and mathematics, we deal with imaginary numbers. It is so imaginary and so important in calculation that it is almost real. Without imaginary numbers, some calculation wouldn't work, especially in quantum physics. Why don't our ambitious and anxious ulama say that to believe in the imaginary numbers is haram? Then the whole quantum physics and quantum mechanics is gone. We will set back our scientific endeavors. I do not know how to explain it. It is a cornerstone in modern physics to discuss about imaginary numbers. But in our aqidah, I'm sorry to say, it has never been brought up again, isn't it? We just took it because the separation is so clean now. The break, that's what I say, from modern physics, from the physics that Islam aspires. And this is why I think people train with modern science, especially in quantum physics, once you want to bring it, the idea, because remember one of the things that Professor al-Attas says about Islamic worldview is the idea about the world. And one of the meanings or the experience of scientists pertaining to the world is in mathematical language. How do you deal with this? So do you say that scientists that deal with quantum physics, with imaginary numbers, are dealing with the realm of the ghaib? And we should not be investing in the ghaib. But when we talk about alam ghaib, in the tasawwuf, they say, no, this is like batiniyah. This is like batiniyah, this is like sha'ir, rafidah, and things like that. This is where we need to revisit this. And it's very important, but that's another discussion. So, the works of Hamza has been referred to in the past as being too saturated with Arabic words. This is from this book, the thesis. Rendering them unintelligible. Anyone who studies Hamza Fansuri's work will again agree with me that his Malay is indeed intelligible and closely resembles modern Malay. Now, when was Hamza Fansuri? To put in perspective, to put Raja-Raja Melayu is so out of fashion with us, my wife reminded me, Hamza Fansuri is the time Sultan Sulaiman the Magnificent. There you go. it's better to put in that perspective. You know, it's very old, but the language is very modern. So this is where we are losing, and this is why this is the forte of Shukri, who's working on this now. The so-called unintelligibility of expression allegedly found in Hamza's writings, for those who find it, has for the most part largely due to they not being sufficiently acquainted with the religion of Islam. That's the thing. Two, and also the doctrines of the Sufis, their reliance upon generalization based upon the conclusions drawn from other studies of lesser works, which is so-called Arabic influence predominates. Ini yang katanya Arabization. Third, the manner in which the writings have been presented to them or by them renders the work well-nigh incomprehensible to the layman. So this is what we are intending to do today, to read some of the words. Maybe we can have some kind of appreciation of what this is all about, because I want to share with you some of the excitement when you read the works of Hamzah Fansuri. Before that, the Arabic version of it, the Jawi version of the manuscript, isn't it? So would you like to say something, Shukri, about say something about the collection in Leiden, okay?
Okay, bismillah. Terima kasih Prof, Dato Seri. Kita ada kongsikan salinan digital daripada Leiden. Kalau tengok dalam WhatsApp group tu, nanti kita pun akan share juga dalam link di live streaming ni, iaitu collection Hamzah Fansuri. Dia sebenarnya beberapa karya Hamzah Fansuri di dalam satu manuskrip. Dan karya ni kalau kita tengok, dia ialah koleksi Dorun Bus kalau tak salah saya. Koleksi Dorun Bus, dan dikaji dan diterbitkan perumian dia yang baru, edisi baru oleh Drewes tahun 60-an macam tu kalau tak salah saya. Dan yang menariknya, walaupun Hamzah Fansuri itu dia berada di Aceh, tapi manuskrip di sini dia disalin di Jawa sekitar abad ke permulaan abad ke-18, 1701 begitu. Jadi kalau sebab bila manuskrip ini disalin di Jawa, rupanya tu kita lihat dia huruf penyalinannya tu Jawi tu dia Jawi berbaris. Sebab dalam tradisi penyalinan manuskrip ataupun penulisan manuskrip, kita yang bahasa Jawi ni di sini kita tulis Jawi tu dia tak ada baris. Kita pakai alif waw ya apa semua tu. Tapi kalau di Jawa yang dinamakan tradisi penulisan Pegon, dia punya kitab tu dia akan dibariskan semua tempat. Itu dia punya rupanya tu. Satu lagi yang menarik, Prof kalau boleh kongsi, iaitu pada baris-baris awal dalam manuskrip ni, kalau kita tengok tu, ni Syarabul Ashikin, kitab yang pertama dalam tu, dia kita dapat lihat daripada awal lagi, iaitu sejak zaman Hamzah Fansuri maksud saya, kita dapat lihat Hamzah Fansuri tu dia sedar akan penggunaan nama bahasa yang digunakan untuk menyuratkan karya dia. Kalau kita tengok baris yang saya ada hantar gambar tu, nanti kalau Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wal aqibatu lil muttaqin wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah Muhammad wa alihi washabihi bihi ajmain. Ketahui bahawa fakir daif Hamzah Fansuri hendak menyatakan jalan kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala dan takrif makrifat. Saya baca manuskrip tak erti. Ma'rifatullah dengan bahasa Jawi dalam kitab ini insya-Allah taala, supaya segala hamba Allah yang tiada tahu akan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Farsi supaya dapat membicara akan dia. Okay. Dia maksudnya kalau kita tengok di situ, Hamzah Fansuri dia dah sedar ada perbezaan antara bahasa Arab, bahasa Farsi dan kemudian bahasa Jawi. Itu maknanya istilah bahasa Jawi itu istilah yang awal lah yang kita ketahui, dan ulama kita dia secara sedar dia menggunakan istilah tu, dan dia mengarang pun dia tahu inilah istilah bahasa Jawi. Itu saja. Terima kasih.
Satu lagi, one thing that I want to bring up also in relation to this work, Professor al-Attas has transliterated, romanized that part in this thesis of his, Sharabul Ashiqin, on page 297, Sharabul Ashiqin. In his study of this work, Professor al-Attas mentioned about the influences that has come into the shaping of the literary mind of Hamzah Fansuri, and that is the works of the great Muslim literary figures. The names are many, and I just would like to show something which is quite fascinating, because Professor al-Attas in his last two works, the Islam Covenants Fulfilled and also Man, Justice and the Nature of Man, he mentioned about the possible dates of the prophets, and he did it by calculation, again manually, and it is 7,165 years for Adam alayhi salam. I want to read to you a line from Rubaiyat Ibn Khayyam, and it's in here. This is the one. This is published by McGill University and University Tehran, and this is Khayyam's poem. It is written in Persian. He said here it is Persian influence, right? There's Arabic Persian. But what is fascinating is, I think I can read it from here, would be better for me. It's clearer, I hope. So Professor al-Attas came to the conclusion that the age of Prophet Adam was 7,165 years. Now remember, Professor al-Attas was doing this calculation in the year 2000 something, and if somebody can quickly check the date of Umar Khayyam. But this is what it says in Persian. I shall read you in Persian, but I will first say I'm not a Shia. Because now you have to say, you have to declare. I dust biya tagham farda nakhorim. It's actually va'in. Vin yekdam amr ra ghanimat shuramin. Farda ke az in daryo fana de kozarim be hafte hezar saligan sir besharim. The English is very fascinating. Oh my beloved, we are talking about now how poetry, literary production is infused with many things. Oh my beloved, fill the cup that clears today of past regrets and future fears. Maybe you may not understand this, but in the language of Tasawwuf, this talks about the khalqun jadi. It's the recreation, the renewal of creation. So fill today's cup. My beloved is Allah Ta'ala. In the language of people who likes to drink, fill my cup with wine. They say, oh, Ibn Khayyam's poetry is full with wine. They're not talking about wine. The same thing with Rumi. When poets talk about wine, the problem is allegory and symbolism. So for those who likes arak, but no, we're not talking about that. Okay? Oh. So, oh my beloved, fill the cup that, yes, fill the cup that clears today of past regrets and future fears. It means recreate my a'yan thabita. Again, that clears the regrets of the past and fear of the future, because now you're new. This is why in Islam there is no la taqnatu min rahmatillah. Do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. How bad, how worse your situation is, Allah Ta'ala will, again, I always like to use the term mengapung dan mengampu kamu. He is the one that levitate you. Because we sometimes fall into the realm of despair and desolation and fear and depression. This is what it is. Tomorrow, why tomorrow? I may be myself with yesterday's 7,000 years. What does this mean, 7,000 years? I will be with myself 7,000 years. It means you go back to the realm of the arwah. 7,000 years, the first row is Nabi Adam. So it's amazing, Dato Sri. Two great minds in the history of Islam agrees about the same time of the creation of Adam. And they are able to put it in poetry, in different language, albeit in different languages.
Itu verse yang keberapa? Ni ada number 149.
I think 120 something, 122, depending on edition, Dato Sri. Depending on edition. This one.
Yang wine ni 149 pun ada. I desire a little Rabi wine.
This is 121 from this edition, but it might differ from edition to edition. So maybe now, that's also you have anything that you want to read from here?
No, I'm okay. So yeah, it's okay. You want me to read?
Yes. Which one first? Sha'ir Perahu?
Sorry. Sha'ir unggas. Sorry. Suara dia lebih menarik.
Pilih some lines je lah, okay? I think you should read this one.
Which one?
The one that begins
Sha'ir Perahu.
Sha'ir Perahu from La ilaha.
La ilaha illahu, jua yang engkau ikut di laut keras dan topan ribut. Hiu dan paus di belakang menurut. Bertetaplah kemudi, jangan terkejut.
Can you read again, please? Yeah.
La ilaha illallahu, jua yang engkau ikut di laut keras dan topan ribut. Hiu dan paus di belakang menurut. Bertetaplah kemudi, jangan terkejut.
Okay.
Hiu tu apa?
Hiu is the name of a fish, a type of fish.
Bukan hiu. Bukan hiu.
Jaws, shark.
Hiu.
Because Dato' Sri, orang Melayu dulu jangan guna you at the beginning. Why? So, hiu. Anyways.
Sila baca. Zubair baca.
Sambung, siapa nak baca the next line? Before that, Zubair.
Yeah.
Before that, I want to remind you, because this is Sha'ir Perahu, right? And he talks about at the very beginning, wahai muda, kenali dirimu, ialah perahu tamthil tubuhmu. Tamthil, it is an allegory, a symbolism that your body is like a sampan, a perahu, or a canoe, a small boat. So, the next line, tiada berapa lama hidupmu ke akhirat juga kekal hidupmu. Hai muda arif budiman, hasilkan kemudi. That's the kemudi part. Okay. Now, this kemudi is later on identified as La ilaha illallah. Remember, La ilaha illallah ni is a very famous formula. Of course, kita kata it is kalimatut tauhid. Betul tak? Syahadah, kalimatut syahadah dan juga kalimatut tauhid. Yes? Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. But it is also the main, the ibu, the mother of all dhikr. The mother of all dhikr. In Jawahir, Dato' Sri, the book that the team is now working on, Raniri talks about the silsila of his spiritual lineage, where he has received the ijazah, so-called, of the dhikr la ilaha illallah. And many, and to show you, although Raniri and Fansuri, they may differ on certain finer points, here Fansuri talks also the importance of la ilaha illallah. That's how it is started here. La ilaha illallah, jua yang engkau ikut. Okay? Di laut keras dan topan ribut. Hiu dan paus di belakang menurut. Bertetaplah kemudi, jangan terkejut. Okay, Zubair, go on next point.
Laut Silan terlalu dalam, di sanalah perahu rosak dan karam. Sungguh pun banyak di sana menyelam, larang mendapat permata nilam.
Do you know Laut Silan? Ceylon.
Ceylon.
Yeah.
Okay. Laut India.
So the other thing is in the language of these poets of ours, especially Fansuri, sha'ir perahu, sha'ir dagang, he uses local imagery because that shows to you the strength. We were a navigation civilization. Unfortunately, now we lost it. And this is why, like Raniri talks about Jawahir, pearls, betul tak? Because pearls are found in the ocean. So this is how it is. And but there's another thing. Here he uses the term perahu, and then there's this ocean. There's choppy waters, you know, and you have the ebb and the wind of the waves. This is an indication that you are being levitated. You are kept afloat of something. There is a medium, and this is what the medium, Dato Sri, is what is called Bahr Tawheed, the ocean of unity, the ocean of Tawheed, right? And there's also it's a reference to Bahrul Lahud, the ocean of divinity. So this is what it's called sha'ir perahu.
So apa lagi syair kan? Syair perahu, syair apa?
Syair dagang, syair unggas.
Syair unggas.
Unggas means bird. And bird also, there's a verse in the Quran, afalam yarau ila tayri fawqahum safatin wa yaqbidna ma yumsikuhunna illa rahman. It talks about Allah Ta'ala supporting them in flight. These are the motif in our sha'ir. It to show you the unforeseen, the unseen forces of Allah Ta'ala. That is. I remember that when somebody came to me and showed something from Raniri that talks about. Somebody came and showed me Raniri's work, the book, what is it? Khalqus Samawati wal Ard. Bad'us Samawati wal Ard. And it says that the earth is on the back of the bull is on the back of a fish. And people raise issues. So, Zainiy, how can you explain this? Our ulama speaks nonsense. This is not scientific. How can the earth is on the back of a bull, the bull is on the back of a fish? I said to him, I'm sorry, bisaraha, this is the first time I see this. And it is very scientific to me. I said, what do you mean? You see, I'm an astronomer. I'm sorry, the battery in my hearing aid just died out. I'm very scientific, I said. You don't look at the picture. The problem with tamthil, people look at the picture. Because I'm trained in scientific mind, I don't look at the pi r square. I look at the meaning of the pi, of the r, of the square. It's a circle. What does this mean? I said when I look at the part that says on the back of a fish, immediately that came to mind, kullum fi falakin yasbahun. Because I said to him, the fish yasbah. Fish swims. And what does swimming means? It has a medium that supports it. Ma yumsikuhunna illa rahman. That gives it strikes back to me that verse in the Quran. The bird does not fly out of his own power, but Allah Ta'ala levitates it. Then I said, look, this is very scientific. And then he said, what about in the back of a bull? I said, let me ask you, what defines a bull? It's the horns. Now you and I know, how do you support a circle thing? You have to have axis. You have to have axis. Imagine you don't see this. So it's a very powerful axis that is holding this thing. Don't look at the picture, because Raniri was accused of influence by Israeliyat, because the bull is like Israeli. The Jews believing in some kind of a bull or whatever. It's a yellowish bull, the heifer. And some says he was influenced by Hindus because of the bull too. I said, nothing doing. This is why you must have learned something scientific in order to appreciate this. And then I gave another reasoning, Dato. I said, I'm familiar with cartography maps, because I worked in Chicago Library in medieval maps, and I have collections of books on ancient maps. I said, when you look at the old maps, like for example, the Cosmographia or something, that particularly produced by the Dutch, at the four corners of the maps, they would put pictures of wind, you know, the southwest wind, the northeasterly wind, or whatever. They put it in the form, the cloud in the face of a man with puffed up cheeks, blowing. You don't imagine the clouds are like that, isn't it? It is trying to give you an impression that the wind blows. So the same thing when Raniri says it's on the back of a bull, the bull is on the back of a fish, it is held strongly, but it is swimming in an ocean. That's why in the Sufi allegory it talks about ocean of unity. But here it's a different thing. It talks about the cosmology, that now we know that space is not vacuum. Because I said it's amazing, I said, because I am an astronomer. I used to look at telescope and look at this, the moon. I don't see the moon jumping about or fell in the depth of the black space. It sits there, that's really. I mean, you look at the moon every night, isn't it? You don't see it's jumping about. This is why it's kullum fi falakin yasbahun. It is nicely swimming. Yasbah, it's very modern, the Quran description of orbital, movement. So I said even the word falak is an orbit. Don't think kita ni, now we sebut falak, oh ini sains yang lama dah tak guna. What it means is orbit. So this is why this sha'ir, this is what Professor al-Attas said, is very intelligent, very scientific, and you must know these things properly. It's amazing.
Berapa banyak Hamzah Fansuri punya syair yang manage to...
I'm not sure, but there's another thing I forgot to mention. Now you raised it. Because I think April 25th this year, sha'ir Hamzah Fansuri, karya Hamzah Fansuri has been inducted in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register, thanks to our Indonesian brothers. But it is said that it is in collaboration with the Malays. So I think the work is what Shukri shared in that Arabic or Jawi manuscript that is in the Leiden University. Yeah. So that's the whole body of works, as I say. And that's the work that was presented by Indonesia for the works of Hamzah Fansuri to be inducted into the UNESCO Memory of the World Register, including previous was Batu Bersurat Terengganu, of which Professor Zuraina, I said, asked me to edit a book on the Terengganu inscription. And Hikayat Hantua and many others are now being, you can have a whole list of, every year they will induct new artifacts in it. So I myself don't know how many, but I want to say the title, for example, Sha'ir Dagang, Sha'ir Perahu, Sha'ir Unggas, these are tamthilan, these are allegory, symbolism used in Sufi tasawuf. Sha'ir Unggas, dia panggil Unggas Uryani. I think later we will read it too. It is also a symbolism for the soul. Okay, so we'll get to that in a bit. So next one, who wants to read it? Here. I'm trying to appreciate a little bit of this poetry. Sha'ir.
Laut Silam Wahid al-Qahar. Riaknya rencam, ombaknya besar. Anginnya songsangan, membelok sengkar. Berbaik kemudi, jangan berkisar. Itulah laut yang maha indah. Kesanalah kita semuanya berpindah. Hasilnya bekal, kayu dan juadah. Selamatlah engkau, sempurna musyahadah. Silan itu ombaknya kisah. Banyaknya akan ke sana berpindah. Topan dan ribut terlalu azamah, aghamah. Perbetulilah pedoman, jangan berubah. Laut Kulzum terlalu dalam. Ombaknya muhit pada sekalian alam. Banyaklah di sana rosak dan karam. Perbaiki na'am siang dan malam.
Everybody knows Laut Kulzum?
Tak tahu.
No? It's the Red Sea. It's the Red Sea. See, they don't. Yes, sir. Thank you. It is the Red Sea. My point being is that our ulama, and when they write this, they don't write out of wild imagination. Dato. It is real geography, but embedded with real metaphysical description. See. Laut Silan Wahidul Qahar. Wahidul Qahar is apa? Is Allah Taala. See? So, ke sana kita semua berpindah. We must return back to Allah Taala. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah. Hasilkan bekal kayu dan juadah. Selamatlah engkau sempurna musyahadah. This is the thing. Musyahadah ni is a very fascinating experience, and people might say Sufi talks about this. There are many levels of musyahadah. There is musyahadah at the level of lisan, and we do it all the time. Masa tasyahud, there is musyahadah juga. Cuma at that point some people kalbu dia terbuka. Ada kasyaf, ada orang tak kasyaf, betul tak? Maknanya kasyaf ni arrival of meaning. Arrival of meaning, that is the main thing. Many things to discuss about. So, sempurnalah engkau musyahadah. Itulah laut yang maha indah. The Bahrul Muhit, the Bahrul Lahud, the Bahrul Tauhid. Ini maksud dia begini, Dato' Seri. Remember what Prof. al-Attas talks about. What is the purpose of deen? Because he talks in his book, Islam, Concept of Religion, Foundation of Ethics and Morality. What is the purpose of deen? That is the problem. In the Western definition of religion, they have a problem. There's no purpose in religion. Cuma it says that religion is to bind. Bind with what? Bind with some power. But Islam says it's a debt. The purpose of deen is to return back. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan. So you do the returning. It is also physical and metaphysical. When it says about khalqun jadid, it's always returning. And this is explained pretty well, that not modern science have proved it, that you have your cellular composition always being recreated after 1 week or whatever, isn't it? Some parts of your body is entirely new. MashaAllah, it's a miracle actually. Betul tak?
Yeah.
Really, a miracle. And we are not conscious of it. So the same thing with this, khalqan jadid, we are not conscious of it. So to be, for some people, when they actually, look at the cell under the microscope, then they were awed. They can see the mitosis of the cells. MashaAllah. This is the beginning of what the Quran described, the making of an embryo. It's amazing, and the speed, unbelievable. The speed is unbelievable. So this is what musyahadah doesn't mean you actually see Allah Ta'ala. No, you cannot do that. It is beyond. It will not work. But what musyahadah is, to see and experience his athar. That's what it is. The athar of his creative ability. I don't want to get too detailed on this, but it's fascinating, really. Now I think you can appreciate the whole dimension of what this is all about, you know. And I want to explain to you also why poetry is very important. It's like science. Science, as I say in one of my writing about menterjemahkan, we see the movement of heavenly bodies as an astronomy, you know, like a force of gravitational body that is gravitational constant mass 1, mass 2 over r squared. We are able to simplify and formulate it into a formula. That is language. That's why they say mathematics is the language of science. But this is the language of experience. See? Just like recipes is the language of cooking. Betul. You know? For a trained chef, when they look at the recipe, they know. They know. You don't have to tell them how long they have to cook this or whatever, because they know the elemental definitions of some of the behaviors of the spices, of this, of that. And they know if you cook it this long, they become caramelized. You burnt it, undercooked. They know it. And that is why our mothers, in fact our wives, masak campak-campak je. They just know. That's why they got this Michelin stars or whatever. Even some cooks in Singapore. That's what it is. So this is why we should not take the creativity of our ulama in the past in vain. Maknanya what they're writing has no meaning. Actually, it's a very precise language. Right? It's very precise language. Okay, so can we continue?
Quite modern dia punya language.
Now you can see. And this is what?
600 years ago.
Yeah. This is exactly what al-Attas is saying. It's amazing. And this is what I've been advocating, that the more we read this kind of work, the better our vocabulary and the better our language is.
Masa ni tak ada bahasa Inggeris.
Betul. But imagine if this kind of readings were read were introduced early on. I think Malay spoken language will be better. Isn't it?
Bahasa Jawi.
Yang bila dalam bahasa Jawi, contohnya macam
wujud Allah. Okay, you must keep ilmu Allah itu dayungnya, and iman Allah nama kemudinya, yakin akan Allah nama pawannya. These are unbelievable, really timely even this time. Betul tak? In the midst of confusion, you need to know iman. You need to know the knowledge about God. This is asma wa sifat. And the highest of it is wujud. Because tanpa wujud tu, without understanding wujud, you may have a problem. And this is why they say Hamzah Fansuri, Raniri are influenced by the wujudiyah. They're not influenced so much, then they actually understood the metaphysical discussion about it. Okay, go on.
Taharat dan istinja nama lantainya, kufur dan maksiat air ruangnya, tawakul akan Allah jurubatunya, tauhid itu akan sauhnya, salat akan Nabi tali bubutannya, istighfar Allah akan layarnya, Allahu Akbar nama anginnya, subhanallah akan lajunya.
These are formula of zikir. Amazing.
Kenapa solat akan Nabi ya?
Salawat.
Ini solat.
Salawatullah. Yeah.
Oh bukan. Sebab dia tulisnya solat.
Yeah. Because
Salawat.
in Arabic sod lam alif kan.
Bukan salawat salawat.
It is salawat, tapi dia tulis tu sod lam
Salat.
alif ta marbuta. So kan jadi salat. Because salat is actually the meaning is a prayer. It's like a doa. We say salawat dan salam. Salawat is the plural of salat.
Okay. Okay.
The next few line again. I just want to read this one because it's so fascinating to read this. Yeah. Anyway, somebody read lah the next one. Nama je.
Wallahu alam nama rantaunya, iradat Allah nama iradat
Iradat.
Allah nama bandarnya, kudrat Allah nama labuhannya, surga jannat dan naim nama negerinya.
Jannatun Na'im.
Jannatun Na'im.
Karangan ini suatu madah mengarangkan syair tempat berpindah. Di dalam dunia janganlah tamah. Tidak tamah. Ya. Di dalam kubur berkhalwat sudah.
Next line. Apa cerita kat kubur ni?
Kenali dirimu di dalam kubur. Badan seorang hanya tersungkur. Dengan siapa lawan bertutur, di balik papan badan terhancur.
This is how we are buried. Subhanallah.
Di dalam dunia banyaklah mamang, ke akhirat jua tempatmu pulang. Janganlah disusahi emas dan wang, itulah membawa badan terbuang.
There you go. Mamang is distraction.
Mamang.
Distraction. It's so timely, betul tak?
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Tuntuti ilmu, janganlah kepalang. Di dalam kubur terbaring seorang. Mungkar wa nakir ke sana datang, menanyakan jikalau ada engkau sembahyang.
Kena kira.
Tongkatnya lekat, tiada terhisap. Badanmu remuk seksa dan azab. Akalmu itu hilang dan lenyap, tanpa ada tujuan yang tetap.
Can I just say something? This is very important. Akalmu hilang dan lenyap. Because remember we are made of there are four named realities referring to one nature in man, and that is we have ruh, qalb, akal, and nafs. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. It is translated as if everyone will taste death. It is true. But what is mentioned here is also that every soul will taste death. So your physical body will die, but your soul will taste death. If your soul dies, then
Tak ada lagi cerita lagi.
mafish.
Mafi.
Betul tak? So when the soul experiences death, this is very fascinating. Why does the soul taste death? Because it is the connection of the nafs with the body. Professor al-Attas explained, when the soul, ruh, when the spirit enters the body, jasad, once it takes the responsibility of maintaining the biological aspect of the body, it is called nafs. That's why nafsu makan. Huh? And that is why kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. The nafs will experience a death, not intellect. You don't intellectualize death. At that point, there is no intellect working. You are experiencing death. And that is why, I mean, we experience this. You can suffer a cut, you can suffer a burn, but so-called emotional, it's very deep, isn't it? The pain, when it affects your psychological structure, the pain is very sure. It's even more painful than anything. And that is the nafs. The emotional experience is at the nafs level. Intellect never suffers emotion. The aql doesn't suffer emotion. Nor does the qalb, because the qalb nazzalahu ala qalbika. Revelation goes to the qalb. That's the higher function. This is what I said, Professor al-Attas' contribution. It's the nafs. That's why he used. Akalmu hilang dan lenyap. And that is why on that day Allah Ta'ala talks directly with the arkan. I mean your jawahir, your organs. He doesn't talk to your intellect. The intellect will do what Professor al-Attas mentioned as intelligential capacity. It will make judgment, it will make clarification, it will make distinction. Pandailah nak mengelak. That's why al-yawma nakhtimu ala afwahihim wa tukallimu aydihim wa tashhadu ala arjulihim bima kanu yaksibun. That's it. So he is very smart. No one has mentioned this, that masa mati akal lenyap. You see, this is science. Some people, this is mumbo jumbo. No, it's not mumbo jumbo. This is really, because it's correct. How do you taste something? It's when your bodily functions is still working. Although yang reput remuk binasa ni badan, but the taste of it is at the level of the nafs. And that is what Allah Ta'ala said in the day of judgment, in hell and inside in heaven also. The way we taste punishment and rewards, pleasure, is by virtue of the physical experience. And that is why those who are the inhabitants of hell, their skin will be replenished to feel. And it's not with the intellect, it's not with the qalb anymore, it's the experience. That's why the adab is very real. That's fascinating for me, for him to be able to say this. I've not seen, I've been saying this, that the intellect dies when you die, meaning it does not function.
So ya dalam kubur yang
jawab
bercakap tu,
that is your qalbu. The qalbu will answer as it is. That's why there is no lying.
Okay, baru ni ada mami yang baru dapat kan dekat Mesir.
Mumia.
Yang tu. So dia orang cerita lah, tengok tak ada berubah tak tahu berapa beribu tahun lah, I forgot. So dia kata it shows that when you preserve the body, we can still see the body.
Yeah.
adalah indication kata maknanya tak ada seksa kubur, tak ada apa semua. Dah masuk kubur pun okey je. Kalau you preserve your body proper.
Yeah, but the experience of the azab is at the level of the nafs. The nafs is unseen, Dato' see. And there are some people, of course, that one is preserved by chemical thing, but eventually it will disintegrate. No matter how it is, it will disintegrate. The nature of a chemical bond or whatever, right? Yeah. But remember, the experience of the azab kubur is with the nafs. The nafs is actually experiencing it.
Sebab tu banyak orang yang tak percaya kepada
Azab kubur.
azab kubur tu sebab dia gali kubur, tengok orang tak ada ular pun dalam kubur. Tengok okey je.
Yeah, because you don't see it. This is why alam ghaib dengan alam syahadah, right? Alam ghaib dengan alam syahadah, they are not the same world. And we cannot deny the existence of alam ghaib ni. It is true because macam even physics now, quantum physics pun, they cannot explain how suddenly something appears. And it's very interesting that it appears as a ripple. It appears as a ripple. You know, the first apa tu? You cannot see proton moving like that, no. And that's why that gives birth to the idea of the fabric of the universe, because they see ripples. So they say as if this world is made out of like a piece of cloth, you know. Fabric of the universe, Brian Greene, string theory, you know. But no. Who wants to continue, please?
Kenali dirimu, hai anak dagang. Di balik papan tidur terlentang. Kelam dan dingin bukan kepalang. Dengan siapa lawan berbincang. La ilaha illahu, itulah firman. Tuhan itulah pergantungan alam sekalian. Iman tersurat pada hati insan. Siang dan malam jangan dilalaikan. La ilaha illahu itu terlalu nyata. Tauhid, makrifat semata-mata. Memandang yang gaib, semuanya rata. Lenyapkan ke sana sekalian kita. La ilaha illahu itu janganlah kau permudah-mudah. Sekalian makhluk ke sana berpindah. Daim dan kaim jangan berubah. Khalaq di sana dengan la ilaha illahu. La ilaha illahu itu jangan kau lalaikan. Siang dan malam jangan kau sunyikan. Selama hidup juga engkau pakaikan. Allah dan Rasul juga yang menyampaikan. La ilaha illahu itu kata yang teguh. Memadamkan cahaya sekalian rusuh. Jin dan syaitan sekalian musuh. Hendak membawa dia bersungguh-sungguh. La ilaha illahu itu kesudahan kata. Tauhid makrifat semata-mata. Hapuskan hendak sekalian perkara. Hamba dan Tuhan tiada berbeza. La ilaha illahu itu tempat mengintai. Medan yang qadim, tempat berdamai. Wujud Allah terlalu bitai. Siang dan malam jangan bercerai. La ilaha illahu itu tempat musyahadah. Menyatakan tauhid, jangan berubah. Sempurnalah jalan iman yang mudah. Pertemuan Tuhan terlalu susah.
That's the end of it. The reason why interestingly it ends thank you. Interestingly, it ends with a lady reading that part, because I want to. It's not planned. This morning I was reading al-Ahzab, and I was remembered what I want to talk about. It reminded me how I shaped today's discussion. Surah Al-Ahzab ayat 35. Innal muslimin wal muslimat wal mu'minin wal mu'minat wal qanitin wal qanitat was siddiqin was sadiqat was sabirin was sabirat wal khashiin wal khashiat wal mutasaddiqin wal mutasaddiqat was sa'imin was sa'imat al hafizin furujahum wal hafizat والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات. A'addallahu lahum maghfiratan wa ajran azima. La ilaha illallah. The verse ends with dhakirin wa dhakirat, those who remembers God. And the formula is La ilaha illallah. And this is what I was saying. All great Sufis, or great ulama for that matter, talks about the mother of the formula of dhikr is La ilaha illallah. And that is something that we must practice. So it is not very difficult, but as he says, the laut dan dengan topannya and all, it has its challenges. But we must keep to this thing. So this is sha'ir perahu. Now sha'ir burung unggas. Unggas is another word for bird, and the bird is a symbolism, tamthilan, for the soul or the spirit. One of the Sahaba of the Prophet, Ja'far At-Tayyar, I think Abu Talib, he was called At-Tayyar. Do you know why? Yeah, but do you know why? Yeah. Yeah, in heaven he will have a pair of wings and flying. This is what it's referring to. So you have a fish, sorry, not the fish. The fish is another one yet. You have the perahu swimming in it. Now you have a bird. So somebody wants to read this? Bird.
Mana yang tadi?
You don't have it, Dato.
Tak ada siapa yang ada. Tak, sebutlah.
So you want to read at the back?
Yang ni yang burung. Unggas.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Syair burung unggas. Unggas itu yang amat burhana, daimnya nantiasa di dalam astana. Tempatnya bermain di Bukit Tursina. Majnun dan Laila adalah di sana.
Okay, hold on. Burhana mean the word is Arabic. Burhan. Yeah, so sama jelas. That's what it is. Okay.
Unggas itu bukannya nuri, berbunyi ia syahdu kala hari, bermain tamasya pada segala negeri, demikianlah murad insan sirri. Unggas itu bukannya balam.
Bukan, these are different types of bird, kan?
Ya.
Burung balam, burung nuri. Okay.
Unggas itu bukannya balam, nantiasa berbunyi siang dan malam. Tempatnya bermain pada segala alam, di sanalah tamasya melihat ragam. Unggas tahu berkata-kata, sarangnya di padang rata. Tempat bermain pada segala anggota, ada yang bersalahan, ada yang sekata. Unggas itu terlalu indah, olehnya banyak ragam dan ulah. Tempatnya bermain di dalam Ka'bah, pada Bukit Arafah kesudahan musyahadah.
Hamzah Fansuri talks a lot about experiences in Makkah. Remembering one of these poem, he talks about mencari Tuhan di Kaabah, tapi bertemu Tuhan di dalam rumah. It refers to the spirit, you know. You cannot find God directed in a certain place. No, Allah Ta'ala is not in a place. It's not in the Kaabah. And that is why some non-Muslim mistaken that they say Muslim praise and worship the Kaabah. No, we don't worship the Kaabah. And this is why when we have pieces of it, it is for memory's sake. It is not for how do you say, to add holiness to a place. Like somebody, for example, at the Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies, they have the part of the kiswa that is on the door. So it was given, I think, by Rashid Hussain, if I'm not mistaken, to Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies. So it does not add holiness to the place. It is a historical piece of evidence. Like I've seen pieces of the old wood that was part of the Kaaba. It doesn't mean that that wood is very holy. Which is what some of us might. I remember when I went to Hajj, Sri, some people from our region, they would take the kopiah and they would rub the dust of the masjid on the walls of the masjid. There's nothing holy about it. Just like, for example, when I went to Masjidun Nabi, and people would rush to the mimbar and start kissing it, you know. So the police would say, look, this is Italian marble. Nothing holy about it. It's just like you don't kiss the floor of the Kaaba because it came from somewhere. It's in the activity and the yaqeen. See? It is in the surrendering of the soul. That's what he was talking about. And later on he talks about Sufi itu bukan pada kain. You know? Because Ibn Khaldun talks about the definition of Sufi is that they wore woolen clothes. Nothing doing. And because it's following Rumi, you know, dia kata it's not in the khirqah, but in the harakah. You know, it's in the burning of the soul to see Allah Ta'ala. So that's what it is here. Tempat bermain di dalam Kaabah. You might think that it's making fun of the Kaabah. No, there's nothing really. The Kaaba is not something holy. It is a place that we direct our spiritual concentration, the focus, you know. And this is why I think it was, who said it? Omar, isn't it? That when he kissed the Hajarul Aswad. Had it not been the sunnah of the Prophet, I wouldn't have kissed you. Right? So that's what it is. We are doing in imitation of the great men of the past. Great luminaries and figures, namely the prophets. They are the sunnah of the prophets. Otherwise we won't do it. Tempat bermain dalam Kaabah pada Bukit Arafah kesudahan musyahadah. Again, the word musyahadah is what it means is that you can have these experiences even in other places. So Bukit Arafah. Anyone else to read this? Muhammad?
Unggas itu bukannya muraka, nantiasa bermain di dalam syurga. Kenyataan mukjizat tidur dan jaga, itulah wujud meliputi rangka. Unggas itu terlalu pingai, nantiasa main dalam mahligai. Rupanya elok sempurna bisai, menyamarkan diri pada sekalian sagai. Unggas itu bukannya gagak, bunyinya terlalu sangat galak. Tempatnya tamasya pada sekalian awak, itulah wujud menyatakan kehendak. Unggas itu bukannya bayan, nantiasa berbunyi pada sekalian a'yan.
Just hold on a second, Muhammad. Hold on a second. It's very important here because part of the major contribution Prof. Al-Attas did in his thesis was a discussion on hendak and menghendaki. This is where it is. Itulah wujud menyatakan hendak. Wujud menyatakan hendak, it means existence is a tool by which Allah Ta'ala manifests His irada. Kehendak here means irada. So I think you might not be able to catch the drift because it looks suddenly wujud, you know, tempat tamasya pada sekalian awak. You know the word tamasya, it's Persian for festival. Yeah. So tempat tamasya pada sekalian awak, itulah wujud sekalian, itulah wujud menyatakan hendak. Where is this place of festival? Where? There are two. One is at the realm of a'yan thabita, alam ghaib, and the other is here. That's why menyaksikan sekalian awak. Each individuals are seen. Each of you and all are seen by way of wujud. Allah SWT bagi wujud, Allah SWT give you existence, and that is a manifestation of his will, of his irada. Amazing, isn't it? The way he captures this this discourse, let us say.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Kalau maybe if we write it in prose, it might be a little bit difficult too. But yeah, go on, Muhammad. Please.
Unggas itu bukannya bayan, nantiasa berbunyi pada sekalian a'yan. Tempatnya tamasya pada sekalian kawan. Itulah wujud menyatakan kelakuan.
Ini af'al pula. Kelakuan refers to af'al Allah Ta'ala. Go ahead.
Unggas itu bukannya burung, nantiasa berbunyi di dalam tanglung. Tempat tamasya pada sekalian lurung. Itulah wujud menyatakan tulung.
Alright, just pause a bit. Nantiasa berbunyi dalam tanglung. For those of you who are helping me with the Jawahir, remember that the mithal on tanglung? This is it. Okay? But later on, maybe Dato, see when the book is published, we can talk about it. Wujud menyatakan tolong, rahmah. This is rahmah. Go ahead.
Unggas itu bukannya Baghdadi, nantiasa berbunyi di dalam Jawadi. Tempatnya tamasya pada sekalian fuadi. Itulah wujud menyatakan ahli.
Tempat tamasya pada sekalian fuadi. Fuadi is another name for the heart, for the qalb. In fact, Prof. al-Attas makes a very good description of this fuad. As I said, you have ruh, you have qalb, you have aqal, and you have nafs. Fuad is when qalb and aqal work in unison. They work in unison, it produces fuad. And that's very important. I think no one has clarified that. It is in this Islam covenant, isn't it, Dato Hilmi? I forgot which page, at the last few pages, 90 something. Because the way he describes it, it is the qalb that impels on the intellect to start thinking the way it is informed. And this is why, as I was saying, nazalahu ala qalbika. Revelation is deposited in the qalb of the Prophet, and then the qalb somehow fashioned the intellect of the Prophet, and thereby it fashions his nafs, and thereby it fashions his activity. And this is why Prophet al-Attas described what happened to Musa. And this is also how the Prophet experiences the revelation. It is as if he hears something. No one can see he's hearing anything. See? And why he is shaking, why he has experience, because the actual spiritual weight that he has to endure, because the Quran describes it. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. Just from fear of God, it asunder, jadi debu. But the prophetic composition, soul and body, he was able to contain revelation. And that is very unique. That is very unique in this. And that's why he experienced something that, what we see is something else, but what he experienced is different. That's why he says here, tempat tamasya pada sekalian fuadi. Now he talks about that. Itulah wujud menyatakan ahli. At that point, this is for the ahli, for those who deserves it. When their fuad is awakened at a higher level, right? And then we must say, some people might object by saying, no, this is not impossible. This is impossible. This is what Professor al-Attas is saying. Dato Sri, you and I know we are not Nobel Prize winners. So our research is not that level. Betul tak? There are greater minds. Yes? So, can there not be greater spiritual experiences? This is what it is. So this is what among the prophets there are ranks. As I was saying, the Prophet ﷺ, he is of the highest level. If you look at the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, angels came in the form of man, he couldn't identify them. It's only when he took up some food, then they responded to him by saying, we are not from those who eat. Then he realized. See? But the Prophet ﷺ, يعني في اسمه حديث ما هو الإيمان ما هو حديث جبريل. When he asked Omar, do you know who was that? And Omar said, Allah wa Rasul alam. Because they say it's in the form of a man, no traces of travel on him. But we don't know who he is. The Prophet said he's Jibreel. So the Prophet can see beyond the physical manifestation. He can see Jibreel in his own form, like, you know, he sees with his wings and whatever. That's one of the qualities of the Prophet. And also one of the qualities, and this is mentioned in Irshadu Sari, Syarah Kastalani of Sahih Bukhari, the episode that Jibreel hugged the Prophet. No other prophets have that experience. That's one. Two, on Isra Mi'raj, there's a point Jibreel cannot go. The Prophet can proceed. That is why Jibreel is a lower rank than the prophetic rank. And we are, of course, higher than angels. So that's why we must understand. So that is why human being composition, like that of the prophetic soul, is different, of a higher level altogether. This is what Professor al-Attas mentioned. Human being, when they are merged as one new entity, the soul and the body, that creates a third creation. ثُمَّ أَنْشَأْنَا خَلْقًا آخَرَ. We then make you come out as an entirely different, akhar, another creation. It's amazing. You know, he describes, Allah SWT describes in the Quran that, you know, blood, clot, this, that, muscle wrapped in the bones. English call it fetus. See? Mudghah. So, khalqan akhar. How is it? From liquid breathing, womb, destined kind of creature to air breathing. Amazing. And never happened, you know. Evolutionists would think that, you know, that happened with some. Dia ingat kita sebenarnya ikan tembakau lah. Or amphibians.
Yeah. Kebetulan we don't have much time. We have about half an hour to go.
Okay.
So let's take some question. First, I would like to ask about this project towards the biography of Amr Suri. This is through the one that I shared just now. Yeah. Dan ada seorang penulis nama Vladimir Braginski.
Aha.
So dia ada tulis tentang Hamzah Fansuri ni, tapi ada satu quotation itu. If we agree with al-Attas, dia tulis, ya, page. Saya tak tahu apa yang dia kata yang sebelum tu, tapi tak jumpa perkataan ni. Page, let me see. Ada yang dapat tak? Page mana? Lautin. Dia refer kepada al-Attas.
Okay.
Then let me see which page. Ada yang dapat page mana?
No, but what is the question that to say?
The question is seolah-olah ada pandangan lain yang I don't know what is the pandangan lain tu on the apa ni sha'ir ni. 1/4 Tolong baca.
Some time ago, Naquib al-Attas drew attention to the fact that the title Shah Alam, betul tak?
Is that the one?
The ruler of the world, that this title of Aceh ni Sultan was used as Alauddin personal name in some works dedicated to him, was encountered not only in the Ikatan Ilmu Nisa but also in sha'ir definitely composed by Hamzah. Although unequivocally referring there to God, this title could also have been an allusion to the earthly ruler of the world, Sultan Alauddin. Bearing Hamzah predilection for playing on words in mind, one cannot but take the assumption of al-Attas seriously. Itu dia bagi petikan Hamzah Konsuri.
But I don't know the quotation dalam tu. I don't know the ikatan nisa tu. That's the part that is very important.
Hamzah Sha'ir reads, Aho segala kita anak Adam, jangan lupa akan Shah Alam. Pada Bahruz Zunub jangan terkaram, supaya asyik siang dan malam.
Okay, that's it. It is referring to Allah Ta'ala, the King of the world. Because the next line is jangan kita karam dalam Bahruz Zunub. Do not make maksiyah. That means don't do things which is against Allah. So that's why Shah Alam there means King of the world. It refers to God. So but I would agree with Prof al-Attas that it's not an allusion to the name of the Sultan, but it is in reference to.
Tidak sambung lagi. If we agree with al-Attas's idea of the play on words bringing about the double meaning of these lines, then the context becomes extremely important for their interpretation. First of all, one can hardly fail to see that the sha'ir is saturated with the terms related to kingship. Shah, Rob, Sultan, Rabbani, menyembah, etc. To a degree totally uncommon in Hamzah's poetry. Then, Hamzah stresses that the adept should not divide his love between God and somebody else, whereas his renunciation of the world ought to be complete, i.e., you should leave the world once and for all and never return to it. Itu dia explain balik, dia defend balik lah yang tu.
Yeah, because those words are really referring to God. Yeah, so this is why we don't understand why he wants to refer that as the manly, the human powers. But I think Hamzah Fansuri is referring to God here, as we have seen. The main flow of his discourse is basically about fear of God and acceptance of the existence of God. Okay.
That's not only reference made to al-Attas lah. Despite buku banyak dia refer kepada al-Attas, tapi on content, it's the only thing that only parts that they refer to al-Attas.
I see.
Yeah. It's very little lah what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, siapa nak tanya? Buku ni, can you say something about the book? Kita tak habis lagi gitu kan, you read some portion of it.
Yes.
You want to refer to?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Prof Zaini, era Hamzah Fansuri dengan Bulan Negeri ini abad ke-17 ke ke-16?
Bulan Negeri 17.
Hamzah?
15.
Daripada
16, I'm sorry, 16 Cendewan.
Ya, daripada era diorang sampai kepada Prof al-Attas, bagaimana syair ini dihidupkan? Syair ini dihidupkan dalam ilmiah orang-orang Melayu, ulama kita, atau adakah terpisah sampai Syed Naquib mencungkilnya kembali?
That is exactly what we are talking about. Betul, you are right. The conclusion is it's Professor al-Attas that has raised this thing. I mentioned in my book that he has brought the two figures Fansuri and Raniri out of anonymity. For some reason, they were studies done by Dutch scholars, but they become an academic exercise, but it did not affect the psyche of the Malays. We regard them as an interesting intellectual research and study, but the immensity of their contribution to the language, to the metaphysical framework, to the worldview, and how it changes the whole process of Islamization. That is the difference of contribution, and this is why Prof. Al-Attas is saying that and he is rightly so in terms of claiming that he is the one who pushes this. But how it is lost, I think partly because remember, in the 1600s, we read documents. There are some documents about how the Dutch officials were very much jealous of the influence of Raniri over the Sultan. They mention this. They mention about how they would say, oh, this this Muslim scholar comes in and out of the palace and so on. So they want the influence. So to blame colonization is one thing, but once the ulama lost power over the kingship, and that's when this whole project lost its importance. And we no longer become the premier subjects, meaning subject means subject of study. So in order to have it safe from any so-called criticism, let's just study Sharia, fiqh. And this is why until now we suffer that I would say metaphysical amnesia. We forgot something about our metaphysics. But our fiqh, we are very good, we are very good. And this is why I think Prof. Al-Attas wants to really emphasize in this book the origin of the Malay Sha. What I'm trying to impress upon all of us today is the content of that sha'ir, because today the word sha'ir is almost used like gurindam. It's another form of expression of gurindam. It's not even saja, because saja and sha'ir is really Islamic in content with heavy laden Arabic terms. If you don't have that, that's very structural. If you don't have that, it's very difficult. But you look at today's so-called sha'ir, nothing doing with Arabic terms, isn't it? So we must somehow bring this back again. I don't know. In fact, our literary figures now don't produce something like this, right? And this is why I would like to call Dr. Hilmi, Dato, because we have this because you mentioned about Prof. Al-Attas. Dr. Hilmi can read some lines from this book of Rampayan Sajak of Prof. Al-Attas. I think you can see the flow. Have you read this? So you will listen.
Which part, Prof? Which Sajak? Mustafa.
So many interesting.
Mana?
I think Mufti menghadap Muhammad. I think it's quite interesting.
Ya, I ada Mufti.
Oh, okay.
Mufti menghadap Muhammad. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sajak ni sebenarnya saya dapat daripada saudara Muhammad.
Muhammad.
Terima kasih Muhammad. Sebab Muhammad dia scan the whole book of the Sajak tu dan dikongsikan dengan saya dan the book was printed in the book title it's a journal bahasa majalah ilmiah dan kebudayaan Persekutuan Bahasa Melayu. It was published under the editorial team Ismail Hussein and Alis Murni. It was in 1968. Okay, Sajak ni tentang
Ini.
Ada dah. Okey. Mufti menghadap Muhammad. Ampun dan maaf wahai Mustafa, muhur ambal, tauladan raja. Hambamu mohon sepatah tanya, perihal minuman haram sifatnya. Jikalau kelak di lembah syurga bersama huri bergurau senda, boleh menonggak air durhaka, mengapa kini Allah mengapa? Sesaat sahaja di dunia hina, mukmin dicegah sekesip rasa. Kalaulah halal di alam baka, patut tak haram di dunia fana. Wahai budiman, wakil ugama, pembina Islam, pemberi fatwa, jauhar pujaan alim ulama, di negeri musyrik termasyhur nama. Nampaknya engkau dah jauh mara di dalam ilmu yang sulit warak. Tetapi silap taksir kau bawa, perihal minuman haram sifatnya. Kalau tak salah aku dah kata, bagi si bebal haramnya nyata. Tetapi fahamkan bila mana aku mencegah si bijaksana. Okey, Prof. Beribu ampun, wahai terpuji, penjelas erti kitab nan suci. Hambamu lengah mencapai erti, tafsiran luhur katamu murni. Jikalau benar faham menampi, pada yang bijak izin diberi. Sabdamu sungguh mengejut hati, menggoncang iman menjemput sangsi. Mungkin dan bijak bersifat santri, meneguh anggur cinta ilahi. Kalau nan bijak demikian jadi, hambamu mohon turut berbakti. Yang bijaksana bertopeng dua, satu untuk masjid, yang satu pesta. Quran dihafal, lisan membaca, kendi sudah tohor, madang berpuasa. Sang bijak handal bakat perwira, bangsa dan Islam resmi dibela. Umat bertitik peluh derita, putera nan bijak bermain kuda. Si bijak sanggup menanggung dosa, konon hendak jamin mukmin terseksa. Patutlah riuh sorak neraka, pemimpin baru disambut ria. Wahai pesuruh ditunggu-tunggu, jujur dianggap sahabat dan seteru. Sabdamu tepat, hamba setuju. Memang nan bijak demikian laku. Jenuh di mimbar, hamba berseru, takuti Allah, Tuhan yang satu. Tapi sudah khutbah terdengar gerutu, lain ditakut, lain dituju. Jelaskanlah, wahai pemandu, sifat yang benar dengan yang palsu. Bukankah sudah di dalam buku, mukmin dituduh bebal melulu. Okay, Prof.
Yeah. I want to read the part which Prof always. There's a part which Prof al-Attas always remember when he mentions about this, which is this one lah. Mukmin tergenggam, belenggu kafir, akhirat luput, dunia tercicir. Mana lagi sambungnya ni? Budaya kan? Budaya jahil luas membanjir, banyak yang karam tiada tertaksir, barus, singkil, pasai dan ranir. This is Hamzah Fansuri, Abdul Rauf Singkil, Syamsuddin Sumatrani, pasai, ranir, raniri. Silam ditelan masa yang mungkir. That you ask, the answer is here. Lupa jawapan dihafal mahir, bagi menyangkal mungkar dan nakir. Tetapi kini rakyat bertakbir, penjajah ulung kita dah usir. Islam dah rasmi, batin dan zahir, lengan agama akan bertakbir. So, insyaAllah lah. Maybe dengan kerajaan Madani, you never know. So, now, Dato Seri, this is why we must relive this, ataupun resuscitate, rejuvenate, revitalize this Malay Sha in the form that it should be. And remember, this discussion is put in the form, remember sha'ir, poetry, whatever it is a mnemonic device. You know what a mnemonic device is? It's a way, it's a tool to memorize something. when I was learning astronomy, I don't know if I remember it now, to name the classification of stars. There are many different kind of stars. So we put it in like a rhyme. Oh, be a kind girl, kiss me soon. Those are the kind of stars. Star O, B, and all that, the rest. But we put it. So this is what it is. But when you put a structure like this, it's easier to memorize. And this is why I'm not surprised when we were studying Kitab Jawahir, that Raniri can quote the Durul Mandhum that was many hundred years before him. So maybe some of this poetry is basically ingrained in him, because just like, for example, some of us who are trained in Arabic poetry, we can recite it as tempore, you know. Yeah. It's like that for those who have read the Sab'a Mu'allaqat and things like that. So poetry, sha'ir, is a good device to sharpen the mind, because it encapsulates, just like formulas, scientific formulas, put it in a string of letters and numbers. This one puts it in a very select key terms. And I think, for example, Dato himself is an experienced writer and a poet too. I think he can identify with this. But you see, the kind of language that is being used here is very fascinating, and it puts it at par with the other production of literary genre in the Islamic world. For example, the Persian poets of, we have read some from Karyam, we can read from Sa'di Gulistan, we can read from Hafiz, Mathnawi. It means the literary culture of a particular people where Islam has came and spread, it elevates it, to see. And it gives a new vitality to the language, that it can continue or it can contain a discussion of a very high nature at the level which is literary, which is quite fascinating, really, you know. So this is what I think what I intended to do with this, because the subject has never been delved in very deeply in greater detail. We did not go into the technical aspects of the sha'ir, but I think it's very important for us to realize the influence, as Prof. al-Attas mentioned here in page 55. If I were to sort of briefly go through it, to see, you have influence of Rabi'ah Adawiyah, Zunul al-Mishri, Yazid Bistami, Junaid Baghdadi, Mansur Hallaj, Shibli, and all these names of Mas'ud, Sa'di Salman, Fakhruddin Mas'udi, Ahmad al-Ghazali, Abdul Qadir Jilani. You have Jalaluddin Rumi, you have Shams Tabriz, you have Ibrahim Iraqi, many names that now the poets of the Malay language don't know them. They know English poets better, because they read them daily, you know. This is the problem, that see, we don't have a mastery of this. It's fascinating. I mean, we have Nizami Arudi, who's well known for his Chahar Maqala. I only got to know this when I was studying Islamic studies at University of Chicago, when I took Persian. So we have to read some of these works. Yeah. But for people who study the field properly, you will see the growth of the breadth of the learning with the expansion of the language. And the mainstay of the topics, just like, for example, in the Sha'ir, you talk about, it's called Wujud, Abu Zafar Suri. Even in the writing of prose, Raniri and others, there is this mainstay of the discourse on what is now identified as Wahdatul Wujud, and people wrongly attribute it to Ibn Arabi. It was Ghazali who started this whole discussion. The term Wahdatul Wujud was coined by somebody else. It's not Ghazali. But the importance of the understanding of the effect of wujud, that there must be something which is necessary, and that's very philosophical in discussion. That is why it goes to the realm of metaphysics. And some people would say, and wrongly accuse, I don't like the term tasawuf falsafi. There's no such thing as tasawuf falsafi, philosophical tasawuf. No, tasawuf is tasawuf. You cannot say Islamiyatu ma'rifah. Ma'rifah is already Islamic. No other religious experience in any religion talks about ma'rifah. So you cannot say, you cannot use the term for Islamization of knowledge, Islamiyatu ma'rifah. Because this is the problem Professor al-Attas was saying, this is secularization even of the Arabic language. Ma'rifah is a very specific knowledge referring to Allah Ta'ala. But now you want to say Islamiyatu ma'rifah, Islamization. That's why it's wrong. So again, to preserve this, I think we must again go back and read and slowly appreciate this. But again, the whole Romanized Hamzah Fansuri's sha'ir has been transliterated by Drues. But again, that's what Professor al-Attas was saying. Many parts of it are wrong. And he mentioned here, I'll give you another example. In this in this poetry, bab pada menyatakan ma'rifah, which is from Asrarul Arifin. Shukri read something from Syarabul Ashikin. This is Asrarul Arifin, secrets of the Gnostics. Aho segala kita yang menyembahkan nama, Yogya diketahui apa yang pertama, kerana Tuhan kita yang sedia lama. The word sedia, today we understand it as apa? He is ready. Dia dah bersedia. No, it's a Sanskrit word, sadya. It means eternal, qidam. So, Tuhan kita yang sadia lama, it means Tuhan kita has been qidam, yakni bila azal, you know. Dengan ketujuh sifat bersama. For those who tauhid asma wa sifat, this is it. Tuhan kita yang mempunyai zat, awalnya haid, pertama bilang sifat, keduanya ilmu, rupa maklumat, ketiga murid, sekalian iradah, keempat qadir dan kudrat tamam, kelimanya sifat bernama kalam, keenamnya sami' dan adanya dawam, ketujuhnya basir akan halal dan haram, ketujuh itu adanya qadim, akan istidad alamin, sempurna alam. Now this is where for scholars like us we can see there's something missing in the letter. When you read manuscript, there's some letters missing and some vocalization missing. So only people who are trained in the field can add it. That's why Professor al-Attas puts up square brackets. So if you do not know, you might read this akan i'tidad lamin, sempurna alam. So that's why he said, the reading of some of the Dutch scholars must be corrected. Karena sifat itu kamal al-hakim, bernama bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So he said here, following these verses are two verses. Kunjung-kunjung di bukit yang maha tinggi, kolamnya sebuah di bawahnya. Wajib insan mengenal diri sifat Allah pada tubuhnya. Nurani hakikat khatam supaya terang laut yang maha dalam, berhenti angin, ombak pun dalam, menjadi sultan kedua alam. It sounds poetic, but these are wandering verses. And this is why he said we need to edit again. That we somehow found their way in this. So it takes a scholar to know this.
Macam mana non-Muslim boleh baca? Macam kata si Vladimir Braginsky ni boleh, how he reads the.
Oh, dia macam Professor Tatiana.
Oh gitu.
Yeah, in Russia they were trained in Jawi.
Oh, dia Muslim ke?
No, they are like Durembus, like Drewers, like apa. Oh, no, they were not. But because these are basically, and this is where at Chicago we were trained in the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilization. So Near Eastern languages refers to Arabic and ancient other Arab languages like Aramaic, Hebrew, maybe some may know Syriac or whatever, very strange language. There's some people who study Hittite, which is an ancient language, the Himyarites language, and then you learn Persian and Turkish, because these are considered modern languages of the civilization, the Eastern civilization. So they study this as a curiosity, just like they study hieroglyphics. Not to say that you believe in the Egyptian god of Ra or whatever. No, yeah.
I meant Annabelle Teh
Annabelle
Galat.
Gallup, yeah.
Yeah. Dia kata dia speciality dia tentang identification of the text
Yeah,
and cop mohor.
the
tu.
Mahar, yeah.
Itu je. Dia, content kata cari orang lain.
Yeah,
I tak tahu.
she cannot comment on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dia boleh cerita
She said identification of the text.
sources of the text
Yeah.
and then the mohor tu.
Yeah.
Dulu ada mohor ya? Ada cop.
Yeah. In my thesis, the Lataif, you have the royal seal of Sultan Abdul Rahman Riaulingga, and she wanted that mahar. I said no. You have to refer to my text. What it means is that when you see a manuscript, you must identify its provenance, meaning how authoritative it is, the physical structure of the manuscript, what paper. You can tell by either it is Western paper or Eastern paper. Western paper is easy, you have the watermark. The watermark can tell you whether it is Italian, Dutch, or English or French paper. Mostly ours is, I think, Dutch, but we have also Italian. And then you can see from that how old is the paper. That is one way to see whether it is a forgery or not. See, what it means is that when you have a later paper written on the Western, then you must think, did this manuscript originate from a royal palace? If it is, then it makes sense, because the royalty dealt with nobilities coming or traders coming from the West. It is written in the Eastern paper, that's a different kind. We have manuscripts. What we mean by manuscripts are handwritten documents, artifacts that might be written on, say, for example, skin of animals and what is called daun lontar and many other forms. So that's one way, and you need to be an expert on that to be able to actually know. And this is what I'm trained also. And then you must know the language, because you can read the language, you can tell, like Shukri was saying, whether this is this language, that language, Java, because there are manuscripts that are written in Arabic, like for example, some manuscript in Turkey, I understand, from Malay world has been classified as Persian, maybe because they found it's something that Persian. And there are many manuscripts in Malay that are still in the Bodleian, still in the New York Public Library, but because there are no experts who are dealing. But why it is in Holland, Amsterdam? Because they study this part of the world, because Indonesia was one of their main colonies. And then you have to identify the ink. You have to learn the ink. Very fascinating, this provenance of the manuscript. And this is why Annabelle is good at the motifs, the decorative motifs on some of this.
Okay, kita ada 9 minit lagi. Any question? Hamzah Fansuri hanya tulis syair saja, dia tak tulis kitab.
He writes, but like in this book, Dato, interspersed with his writing, there will be his poetry. So that generally, that's why he's understood as, ataupun he's signified as a poet. But otherwise, you can see in this book, Syarabul Ashiqin, there's lines and then there's poetry. Lines, there's poetry. But because that poetry is quite unique, the sha'ir is quite unique. That's why Prof. al-Attas says that he is the authority, the originator of the Malay Sha.
Okay.
Soalan luar sikit.
Ya.
Kubur-kubur, makam-makam ulama ni masih ada.
Yes.
Soalan ni luar sikit lah. Kubur-kubur makam ulama ini masih ada ke tidak? Boleh temui.
You mean these people?
Ya. Tak yang sekarang yang Al-Hafan Suri.
Any Indonesian would know?
Yang ada ni Raja Ali Haji adalah.
Yang
Raja
saya
Ali
tahulah.
Haji.
Al-Hafan Suri masih ada di Sumatera kan? Di Barus tu.
debatable lah. Tapi yang macam ulama yang murid dia tu Samsudin Sumatrai di Melaka.
Di Melaka. He fought with the tu kan.
Dia apa, panglima melawan Portugis. Dia Syed. Dia ulama sufi yang inilah. Tu Raniri di Randir sebab dia balik. Prof Zaini boleh explain lah lagi.
Kita kena buat lawatan lah. Baca kitab. Baca kitab.
Habis kitab yang melawat.
Gimana?
Dok, tadi syair tu,
Sorry.
syair perahu, unggas semua tadi yang Hamzah Fansuri tu, kalau kita tengok dari segi kesusastraan dia, level dia, adakah same level dengan tadi you cakap Gurindam 12 Raja Ali Haji tu? Kat mana kita nak letak kalau dari segi kalau orang-orang yang puisi lah dia letak levelnya?
Ali Haji baru lagi. Baru 100 tahun
But
lebih.
still, the content's about the same. Cuma the form, the form Gurindam lain dengan apa syair. But the content is almost the same because if you see Raja Ali Haji, that is his main theme juga in his writings. And this is not far because Raja Ali Haji is quite smart juga in the sense that he uses the local form, which is Gurindam. And this is what Prof. Al-Attas was saying. He wants to say that Hamzah Fansuri created a new one, which is entirely from there. So the point is, there are other works in Persian, for example, that uses the form that was there, but the language that used is Persian. Now you must understand, Persian is a modern language juga tau. It's like Jawi, because the old Persian was a language meant for Zen Avesta. It's what you call it? I forgot the name of the language. I forgot the name language, I'm sorry. But anyway, this is called Farsi because it is a new language in itself. A book that that somehow macam and poetry that works in this form. In fact, they say if you read the works E.G. Brown, I think Literary History of Persia. The poetry that was written by the early poets of Persia, that was informed by Islamic metaphysics and Islamic worldview, were the Persians, New Persian. And one of them, strange name you might not hear, Rudaki. Rudaki is a very kalau you tengok dia punya region is like in the north, in the inner part, almost like near the it's almost leaving Iran. It's somewhere near the Transoxiana, and that's why his poetry talks about rivers and things like that. And their form is a little bit more different. It's very interesting. Tapi they are Islamically influenced. So this is why I think Gurindam Raja Ali Haji, he wants to remake remake of the Gurindam. And you can see Gurindam Raja Ali Haji is different from the earlier Gurindam. It's filled with it's like this, sounds like this, you know. What I'm trying to say, there's also a book written in Persian. I forgot the name of the author. I remember reading it with a professor in Chicago, Qabus Naameh. It's a book on the mirror of the princess. It's fashioned after the works of Ghazali on Kimia Sahada and everything, you know. So this is to show to you that there is an intellectual and a scientific philosophical body of works that somehow influence this kind of writing. And this is why Raja Ali Haji wrote that Gurindam. I think he wants to make it with a more local flavor, which is quite interesting in itself.
Talking about local flavor, tadi kita kata macam mana nak mainstream kan, Gurindam. In fact, in 19, tak ingat tahun berapa, Wing masih buat lagu kan, Wing, dia ada kod perahu tu.
Yeah.
Kan? Maknanya there was an attempt, tapi how do you carry forward lah kan, momentum tu.
But that's a problem. But but you know, there's a problem when you get to because I I have dealt with some composers who try to influence this. To infuse some of this discussion into their lyrics. My fear is this. This is not content-based. This is more of nafs-based, meaning halawatul. This is for apa dia ni halawatul sama'. It's only for the ear. It does not affect the qalb really. So people are more attracted to the sound and the movement, not the real cause. Like for example, tanya sama itu hudhud. People make fun of it, but the real story behind it is very real, isn't it? It's an episode in the Quran.
Doktor, tadi soalan
Ya.
Ketika syair tadi dan banyak syair Melayu ni menggunakan istilah Arab yang cukup banyak. Maksudnya kalau orang tak boleh Arab pakai tak faham lah. Kan, jadi Doktor sebut tentang Islamization of language sebelum ni. Kan, setakat mana pengaruh bahasa Arab dalam bahasa Melayu? Berapa ribu perkataan sebenarnya kita pernah gunakan ke dalam bahasa Melayu. Dan hari ini selepas kita sebut apa, the Islamization of Malay language, berapa lagi yang berbaki? Yang ada pada hari ini.
Edisi kamus Dewan edisi keempat, Dato Seri has it, the red the burgundy color. Dewan Bahasa Pustaka sought out the services of myself and Professor Bukhari Lubis to check on the content of the meaning of some of the Arabic words. We only managed to memurnikan about 1,000 terms. And even that, the rest of it is still not done. It must be done by people who really knows this term, the meanings and the associated feel that goes with it. And it's very sad, some of the meanings that are in edisi ketiga, many of it are completely wrong. For example, hikmah, kata-kata Shakti. There is no Islamic interpret meaning at all. Sedangkan hikmah is an Arabic when I looked at it, I kata, Masya Allah.
Mungkin boleh Prof, nanti next round kita tengok kamus boleh tak? Your contribution, at least kita boleh tahu lah mana yang lama. So I have also the old kamus, 1, 2, 3 kamus Dewan, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, mungkin you highlight.
I don't know because
1,000 words.
I have lost the list of the words that they want me to look at. Yeah, it's about this thick. Oh, we have to go through again. And I remember when we come there, Professor Bukhari said, Zaini, you explain the meaning. You explain the meaning. As I said, for one example, the word haiwan, and they put binatang. I said, this is not a definition, not a meaning. This is a synonym. So dia kata, so how do you give meaning to this? Haiwan. First I said makhluk, Tuhan yang bernyawa. And dia kata, tak boleh Prof. Makhluk perkataan Arabic itu loan word, kena guna bahasa Melayu. Alah, ini problem. They think Arabic is loan word. Saya kata okay, ciptaan Tuhan yang bernyawa. Ini betul.
Ya, okay, kita tak banyak masa. Mungkin next round kita tengok pasal kamus yang ada lah. Saya nak bagi tahu kepentingan syair ni lah. Sebab kalau kita tengok, I was trying to understand non-Muslim perspective on quality of penulisan. Sebagai contoh, ni Maksud Basho, it's very famous haiku poet dekat Jepun. Tengok contoh so, ini dia sebab dia 17 words saja. An old silent pond, a frog jump into the pond, splash, silence again. That kind of thing, wow, hebat. Fascinating.
Do you know why, Dato Seri? That's Zen Buddhism.
Yeah.
Zen Buddhism believes in the stillness of everything. So when you break that stillness, that's very important. Yeah, that's why it's meaningful for them. And this is why Professor al-Attas was saying, Toshihiko Izutsu was able to make meaningful contribution to Zen Buddhism is because he understood Muslim metaphysics, particularly the Wahdatul Wujud. Izutsu wrote many parts on apa, macam for example God and the Quran, major terms. Yeah.
So okay, it's very interesting. Dah petang, dah
Dato'
pukul
Seri.
5 ni, kita kena berhenti nak
It's a
solat.
good point, masya-Allah.
Terima kasih Prof Zainiy atas ni. Saya nak ingatkan juga ada buku-buku baru ni yang dibawa oleh Syukri. Buku contohnya buku Za'ba yang dicetak semula. Za'ba ni translate Shakespeare. Ada 8 novel. Buku cerita Shakespeare. Saya kecil-kecil dulu bacalah sebahagian buku Za'ba ni, nak baca balik. Jadi kepada mereka yang berminat boleh kita dapatkan buku dari sini. Pada semua yang hadir, thank you very much for your participation. We meet again next month, insya-Allah. Till then, assalamualaikum.